Hello, so our learning objectives today with regards to classification of motor skills is to look through 4 characteristics of human movement and be able to classify a specific sport's motor skill. So if we were to look at this guy here, we have a snowboarder there in a great pink and purple all-in-one suit performing a tail grab off a mountain. Now, we've looked at theories of learning, and this is a little bit different. So theories of learning, he may have learned about the outline of what a tail grab is and being how to do it, but this motor skill classification is going to help us define what skills are. So then when we look at schema theory, we can look how people actually refine their motor learning. So learning theories give us the overall picture, but this is how we learn to refine specifically our movement skills. So motor control and learning, it looks at the level of control about how we actually use our muscles and nervous system in regards to our actions, and how when we can change how we control our muscles through learning, and then we can actually use learning theories that we've already touched on to help bring about these changes in how we control our muscles to perform a desired skill. So the 3 things that we're going to look at that we're involved with is the environment. For example, a busy football pitch going on with lots of players. It's a very unstable environment. Players can be in different positions. The ball can be at different heights. We have the learner. How much experience have they had of performing a set skill? And the task at hand. That example might be mountain biking down a very complex route. So depending on the trees and the angle of the slope, the task may be more complex. Characteristics of human action. 2 things that we're going to look at is flexibility. So human beings can recruit different muscles to achieve the same action. So you can, if we were to look at example of doing a forward flip in gymnastics, you could do it tucked or you could do it straight, using sort of very almost different muscle groups to achieve that, such as hip flexors to bring the knees up to the tuck position, or maybe the core to keep the straight body position when performing a forward flip or front flip. Modifiability of action. So for example, a movement pattern, you can actually change it as you're going. So for example, in boxing, as you were going to punch someone, you saw that they were ducking down. You may then move your action as you started it to then punch downwards so you can hit your opponent. So you can, that means you can change it as you go. Okay, so McGill defines a motor skill as that of one that requires body or limb movement. So you've got to use your skeletal muscles, so things such as blinking or talking would not really be involved. It's got to be voluntary, so you've got to choose to do it. So once again, blinking is not a motor skill. You've got to be goal directed and learn it. So pretty much sport linked, and it's got to have a purpose. So how do we classify skills? So the size of musculature involved. How many muscles and what muscle groups are involved? If we were to use, for example, a fine motor skill, we might then have a dartboard. Someone throwing darts. Look at this. This is a great example of a dart going towards a dartboard there. So a very fine motor skill using the small muscles in the lower arm and wrist. While gross motor skill might be something such as performing a burpee. So we have a guy here, then jumping up to do a burpee. So gross motor uses sort of the big muscle such as the legs, back and core and arms to get up, or the fine motor just using very small muscular groups. So distinctiveness of movement. So discrete means, is there a start and end point? So a clear one might be the shot put. So a starting point, and then we have the actual throwing of, well, it's not actually called throwing, sorry. So from a coaching perspective, it's when you actually shot a put, because it's not a throwing action. So it has a start point of when you're in the coiled up, and then the end point of when you have extended your arm and shotted the put. While continuous doesn't have a clear start and end. A really good example of this is cycling. So we have our bicycle here. Okay, so moving on. Now there can be examples where skills can be seen to be continuous and discrete. Example might be a sprint start moving into a sprint. So there is a start point for the sprint start, but the end point is a little bit grey. When do you stop the actual sprinting? So moving on to stability of environment. This one's quite an easy one. So an example might be a lawn bowls shot, the first one towards the jack. There's no wind, the surface is very flat, there's no bumps in it, in indoor, there's no existing bowls out there to avoid, so the lawn bowls shot would be an example of a closed environment, while an open one is one where there's all manners of factors that can affect it, such as player positioning, the weather itself, the actual state of the pitch. A good example might be skiing or snowboarding on a piste with different amounts of snow on the piste. Perhaps there's skiers in the way, perhaps there's trees in the way. The environment can be different every time. Okay, the environmental dimension. So these are the demands on the performer with it when they're in that environment. So example, moving where? Where would you move to? So example might be if you were playing football and you had to position yourself as a centre forward to receive a goal kick, you know that you're going to move at a set time into one place if you're the centre forward and you want to hold the ball up or play off onto another striker. So when? If it's just a question of when to perform a discrete skill or continuous skill, it's just the timing of it. Example might be of when you are with a volleyball and you have to, when you're serving in volleyball and you throw the ball up, it's just a matter of timing about when you're going to strike the ball. So it's timing there. So that's what temporal means. And move where and when, spatial and temporal. So an example might be in netball is that you have to make a pass to your teammate, but you have to wait for your teammate to first take the defender away before checking back in. So you have your defender, your teammate there. You want to pass to there, but your teammate has to move over there before moving back in. So you know where you're going to pass, but you have to time it right. Because if you pass too early, your teammate won't be there and you'll lose possession of the ball. Okay, so this closed skill that we talked about, it's self-paced, you can do it in your own time. Fixed environment, prime example was the lawn bowls inside. Spatial control, about you know exactly where you're going to be performing the shot and at what time. And highly predictable, so if you perform it right, you know the outcome and you'll know how that feels when you perform that skill. The open skill, so this can happen anytime. We've got a shot in hockey here, so this player's performing the shot, he knows that the keeper's gone the wrong way and he has space in order to slide the shot underneath there. If the keeper hadn't gone the wrong way, he wouldn't be able to make that shot. So the environment is constantly changing and he hasn't had a choice really about when he needs to make that shot. It's only become clear when things have aligned within the game for him to make that shot. He requires to be in a specific time and also do it in a specific place as well. So time and place, spatial and temporal. Skill level of performer. So the skill has to be well learned by the performer. They have to have lots of practice in it in order to perform it well, because of lots of things may affect the success rate of it happening, such as the hockey shot here. the two-dimensional classification. So we can see here there's two things that we look at. Is the person stationary or are they in motion? So the golf player was stationary when they were performing that shot, and there was some motion with regards to the actual swing. Variability or no variability or variability. Is the conditions changing all the time? Is the projectile moving when it has to be struck, or is it stationary? That's a good example. So a penalty would be easier to take than a bouncing hockey ball that had to be then hit into the net. So how easy is it to hit? So we all know that a stationary projectile is easier to hit or throw than a moving one. So this is an example of a two-dimensional look at a batting skill. So we have a batting tee. So we put that up here, and the ball on top, and we have our guy with his bat going to hit the ball off the tee. And this is a good way to introduce people to the skill of batting. We can then adjust the tee to different heights here. So then we have a variability in the height of the ball, but it's still stationary. And using a pitching machine, and we've seen this in cricket as well, using a bowling machine that can put the ball in the same speed and place, so which has motion but doesn't have that variability of the different size heights. And then we can maybe adjust that to bring in variability as well, to bring it into then actually having a live pitch where a human being pitches the ball at different heights to our batter, which even if he was a very good pitcher, he'd still be different every single time each pitch, because that's the basis of human movement. It's always unique and will always be slightly different from the last time. So the person batting will have to deal with that. Okay. And now I'm just going to go refer back to myself to talk about how we could use this within coaching. Please ignore the random line that's coming out of my head. That was just me getting my editing wrong. So this is a great timeline here for seeing how progression can take place with regards to the skill of perhaps batting in, let's go with baseball. So we have our participants starting from a batting tee, hitting the ball from a stationary position, so then you can get just focused on that swing, and then you can perhaps look to build it up to perhaps a drop feed from using a partner from the side, to then so it's gone from stable environment to the ball actually moving now. Then you build up to an underarm feed, and then actually to a live pitch. So the environment has become less stable because the ball can go anywhere, and also it's actually a lot more game related. So when it comes to the game, they've built themselves up on their existing skill, make it from a closed to an open skill, so they're ready for the game situation. So moving on, we look back to our learning objectives to be able to talk about open and closed skills, what they're involved, hear about human movement, and be able to classify a skill. So what I want to do is bring an example of an open and closed skill to the next lesson, and with each of those provide two specific teaching points as to why you have given it that classification of open and closed. For an example, while snowboarding down a busy mountain, the environment is constantly changing due to what kind of things may be changing if you were to snowboard down the same mountain each day. And the skill is being performed at what? Is it a stationary skill? Is it movement? Is there, if it was turning in snowboarding, is that a discrete skill or is it continuous? Can you tell me those things? Okay, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday.